Hey guys, so as promised, I'm going to do a Q&A session just to follow up from my question and answer thing I did yesterday on my Facebook fan page. Hopefully all of you watching this video will have seen that post. It's a photo of me by Lou Raphael, and I just offered up the floor to all of my followers and fans, and I've chosen 10 of the best questions to answer, and hopefully you guys will be able to learn from some of these questions. I've tried to sort of get a varied selection. I haven't prepared any of the answers, I'm just going to answer them off the bat, and there's a couple of tricky ones, so please bear with me. I'm not an expert in everything, but I'm an expert in some things. Okay, so first question I selected was from Natalie Cooper. Natalie Cooper asked me, "Hi James, I recently lost about 12 kilos. Any suggestions for toning up under arms, stomach and thighs? Also, can you tighten up loose skin? I'm 42 and now 53 kilos, thanks." So that was useful that she told me her age and her weight. If ever I'm answering a question, it's good to have some background information, so brownie point there. Well, two answers to that question, Natalie. First of all, toning up under the arms, stomach and thighs. Please never use the word toning. Toning is for printers, okay? I know what you mean though. Weight training is the answer, okay? Weight training is the answer to almost anything when it comes to increasing how your body looks, improving the appearance of your body, sorry. That answers that part. As for loose skin, this can be a bit more tricky. Obviously you've lost a fair amount of weight, and what you may need to do is fill out slightly whilst your skin gradually comes back. Obviously the older we are, or the younger we are, the more or less collagen production we have in our skin, so its elasticity gets lost as we get older. So I guess you're fighting a bit of a losing battle in that respect, but loose skin will in some cases gradually come back to its original tautness. It won't ever be the same, but certainly what you can do is put some muscle on. So try and lift some weights, and particularly under the arms, you know, work your triceps with pressing movements and isolation movements, and hopefully you'll find that that area fills out somewhat. Okay, I hope I answered your question, thank you. Next one. Okay, Bill Goodwin. Bill asked me quite a few questions, which was good of him. I was tempted to answer actually more than one of his questions, but didn't think it would be fair on everybody else. So what I've done is I've chosen his first question as follows. As a beginner to weight training, would you suggest solely focusing on developing strength through the power lifts, Olympic lifts and bodyweight exercises, or would you suggest incorporating more traditional bodybuilding principles like drop sets, supersets, half reps as well? Okay, that's a very, very thick question with a lot of different angles in it. I think what Bill's really trying to ask is, as a newbie, am I better off with the basics, or I'm better off with the more complicated bodybuilding stuff? You know, the first thing I would ask Bill is, what are your goals at the end of the day? You might be a newbie, but what are your goals? What are you trying to do? If you're a newbie that's trying to build strength, then I would stick with compound lifts, some of which are based off the Olympic lifts that he's mentioned. You know, if your goals are to, lose weight, for example, you might be some mileage in using some of the more advanced techniques. I think the general answer to your question, in probably all cases, as a newbie, I would focus on the core lifts. The Olympic term's probably throwing it out a little bit, but bodyweight exercises and compound lifts, that's the key. So the compound lifts are the main 5 lifts: squat, bench, deadlift, bent over row, military press, or maybe you could switch out bent over row with pull-up. Those are the key compound lifts that are going to work most of the muscle, and they get you the best bang for your buck. And once you've learnt the compound lifts, then really you're then going to start to look at isolation movements, which are single joint movements which bodybuilders have made famous, and then Then you can start looking at advanced techniques such as drop sets and things like that. But that answers your question, Bill, thank you. Next up we have Ben Parker. Ben asked me possibly the most interesting question, hence I chose to respond to it. Ben obviously knows his stuff. Ben's asked me about nutrient timing. Nutrient timing is a concept that you know, your body can respond better or worse to taking in nutrients and macros at certain times of day, pre-workout, post-workout. So Ben's question: hi James, how much emphasis do you place on nutrient timing? Should we eat 3 meals a day or 6? Do you consume more carbs at any particular time or spread them out? And finally, how low do you go with your carbs when cutting? Okay Ben, that's not one question, that's 3. I'll try and answer all of them though. First of all, what are your goals? Okay, I've said this before, I'll come back to it. In all cases, you've got to be goal specific. So you have to know what your goals are, and you also have to tell your trainer or your coach, or in this case me, what's your goal. Okay, to be specific and answer these questions, I would say, do we eat 3 meals or 6 meals a day? There's too much hype about meal frequency, and I don't think that we need to eat 6 meals a day. I don't think we need to eat every 2 hours. So what I suggest is that if you're bodybuilding and trying to put on weight, it's more important to eat more frequently so your body has a steady supply of protein, stays in a positive nitrogen balance, and also that you just generally don't go underfed and you don't go catabolic. Catabolic is the opposite of anabolic. So catabolism is the breakdown of tissue, anabolism is the construction of tissue. That's sort of A-level biology stuff. Okay, so that's meal frequency. The next bit was carbs at any particular times, spreading them out. This is a very good question. This is getting a bit more specific, something that bodybuilders, fitness competitors might be more interested to learn about. Okay, so it's certainly been proven by research that the skeletal muscle is more sensitive to insulin and the uptake of nutrients in the post-workout window that we've all heard about. Okay, nobody knows how big this window is or how wide it is or how long it stays open for, but certainly for a period of maybe up to 2 or 3 hours or after, carbs will be more rapidly and effectively absorbed into the skeletal muscle. Okay, what you want to do post-workout obviously is get carbs into the muscle, and we don't want carbs being stored in the adipocytes, which are the fat deposits. Okay, so again, exercise boosts insulin sensitivity in muscle tissue. I think it decreases it in fat cell tissue, so there's less likely to be storing sugars or carbs as fats. I think that answers you, Ben. Finally, you've asked me how low do I go with carbs when I'm cutting. I'm a big fan of going very low with carbs, and that's mostly down to personal preference. Not all my clients have to go that low. In the last few weeks, I'll quite happily be doing less than 50 grams a day, 6 days a week, which for some people might be quite horrible or intolerable, but no pain, no gain. Okay, so thanks for your question. Next up, we have Martin Peters. Martin says, cardio for fat loss and keeping hold of gains, steady state or HIIT? If steady state, is it better to keep the heart rate around 140 or higher? Okay, so this is a good question. This is all over the internet, this one, list versus HIIT. My take on the list versus HIIT thing, well, I generally would prefer to see HIIT being done more earlier on in the stages where there's more body fat to be lost, and not see a trainee using LISS, which is low intensity steady state training, not using that until the final stages of prep. Basically, nobody's got hours and hours to be in the gym unless you're a fitness competitor. When you have got hours and hours to be in the gym, then you can use the less time efficient system. HIIT is certainly a good way to get your metabolic rate elevated and increase EPOC, which is something you may have heard of, excess post-exercise oxygen consumption, known as the afterburn effect. relating it right back to your question, Martin, in terms of holding onto your gains, I'd probably say that it's going to be LISS, because LISS is much less stressful to the body, particularly if it's low intensity. 140 BPM or below is pretty manageable. If you're in a competition prep, or you've built some muscle on your upper body or your legs, I don't think that stressing out your central nervous system with doing shed loads of HIIT is going to be the best way to hold on to your gains if you're including cardio in your protocol. So fairly short answer to that one. Hope that's clear. Thanks for your question. Okay, next up we have Alex. Alex asked me, how is your preparation for a contest? What you eat and drink for the week before the contest? Okay, so this is very me specific. Obviously, hopefully some of you guys might get something out of this one. I've changed my peak week probably every time I've done a show over the last 5 or 6 shows. So peak week is this magical, black magic, scary week that competitors go through, where in most cases we're trying to catch up and make ourselves look leaner on the day because we didn't quite get lean enough for the show. So, in theory, the best piece of advice I give to all of you is to just try and get yourself ready ahead of time so you're not rushing when it actually comes to peak week. Me personally, I would do a depletion and loading protocol. Okay, what that means is I'm going to cut my carbs down and probably at some point cut my fats down, so that for most of the week I'm eating a fairly bland meats and greens type diet, and then water levels relatively high or fairly stable, and then during the last day or 2 or 3 in some people's cases, but again I like to do it in the last 24 hours, a sudden reload of carbs and fats fills me out and should draw water from under the skin, etc, etc. And then obviously the tapering off of water, external water, and maybe even cutting completely of water. That's generally what I do for my peak weeks, and that generally makes me wake up on show day looking that little bit tighter than the day before, because by that point you're reloaded with carbs and fats. One thing that most people don't realize is that some of the volume we have inside our muscles is not just stored glycogen, stored carbohydrates, is actually intracellular fats as well. So by taking fats on board as well as carbs, you can get potentially some more volume in your muscles and look more pumped on show day. Okay, so on to the next one. Thanks for that. Next question is, bear with me. Doug has said, what do you think thermogenic... I'll start again. Do you think thermogenic fat burner supplements are effective and worthwhile? Question I get asked a lot by my clients and constantly via private message is, what's the best fat burner? The answer is diet and exercise. I'm quite pleased to say that my sponsor, Cymex Nutrition, make a fantastic thermogenic called ShredX, and it certainly has its uses. What you need to be aware of is that these products will make a small difference. They are like the cherry on the cake when you've already had a really good cake. So what you need to do is just set your expectations. There's no magic pill, and these thermogenics, yes, they'll raise your metabolic rate slightly. They can suppress your appetite, and they can also give you a certain amount of stimulation, a bit like how a pre-workout might do. But I wouldn't say that any of them are like a magic pill. I think it's part of a large puzzle, and it's just one small piece. So yeah. Do I think they're effective and worthwhile? Yes, I do. I think they are effective and worthwhile. I would take them during a prep. I just probably wouldn't say they are extremely effective. Okay? Hope I haven't frustrated or annoyed anyone by saying that. But like I said, diet and exercise, good quality protein, good quality food, lots of sleep, all the other things will get you just as far, if not further, than anything you can get from a bottle. Okay, thanks for the question. And the next one. This is an interesting one. Dennis has asked, do I do anything to keep a small waist? Like removing exercises that use the hip flexors. First of all, thanks for the compliment. I have been accused of having a small waist, although I don't have a particularly small waist. I think I just tend to pose it that way when the camera's pointing at me. What I've broadly done is I don't do much deadlifting. It's not an exercise I like that much, even though you might have seen videos recently. I'm not much of a deadlifter. Deadlifting can thicken the spinal erectors, which could add to thickness from the side. Although I'm known for my quadzillas, I don't do that much leg training, certainly not much heavy back squatting. Again, I've done a little bit recently, you might have seen some videos, but broadly over my career I haven't done much heavy back squatting. Again, anything that loads up the spinal erectors. You refer to hip flexors. The hip flexor development isn't going to show thickness to the waist. I think what you mean, or what you want to look at, is avoiding oblique work. The obliques are the muscles on the side of your waist. I wonder if I can show you here. Okay. Your oblique development is generally genetically predefined. If you've got small missing obliques, then work them up. If they're already quite thick, like mine are, then I don't really do much oblique work, and I don't do that much ab work either, although I have done plenty in my time. Over the last couple of years, I've certainly tried to keep my waist tight, and not working my obliques has certainly helped. As for hip flexors, I don't think that makes much difference. So thanks for your question. Okay, we're getting there. Next one. Okay, just bear with me a second. I've lost signal. Okay, so I think next question. Right. All right, Ahmed. Hey James, how do you jumpstart fat loss after a month of vacation and not training? Well, the simple answer to that is you jump straight into clean eating and loads of training. It's as simple as that. If you've had a bit of time off, you're going to have to go through the pain barrier, unfortunately, and you're going to find that your first few workouts are pretty painful. And you'll feel that your fitness is definitely gone. So you might find yourself more out of breath, but you know, nothing's more motivating than seeing yourself in the mirror with a few extra pounds on you. So there's nothing specific. I don't suggest you try and ease yourself into it, certainly. I think what you should do is you should just get straight down the gym, straight back up to your normal training frequency, whatever it might be, 4, 5, 6 times a week, and straight back to your whatever diet it was that worked for you in the first place. So for me, if I get back from a week of not working out, which is not very often, I would do straight back to, like, temporarily at least, straight back to a low carb diet with a refeed every Saturday, and I know that would start to get the excess back off fairly quickly. So my answer is just get straight down to it. Okay, thanks for the question. Okay, Bhaskar, he's asked an interesting question. Does drinking lots of water is helpful, or to reduce fat, low drinking water should be taken up? Okay, obviously not all the fans on my page have got perfect English, but I understood the question. There's a general health advice to drink a certain amount of water, especially if you're exercising. For most people, it's around about 2 litres a day. 2 litres a day is going to be enough for maybe a woman that's active, or a small guy that's relatively active. As soon as you're training hard and you're getting pretty advanced, it wants to be maybe 3 or 4 litres plus, just to make sure you're hydrated all the time. The body is full of water, and you know, we've all seen the adverts telling us that just 2% dehydration can really affect your performance. In terms of how it affects fat within the body, it's not a direct link. If you're dehydrated, your body simply won't function properly, and your metabolism won't function properly. So therefore, I would say that being dehydrated or underhydrated, it's a slightly less extreme word, isn't going to help you, because you're not going to be able to run as far, or you're not going to be able to lift as well. So generally speaking, keep the water levels up, and that will help you with your goals. So there's an indirect link there, I believe. Next question. Rahul has asked me, hey James, I want to know about sugar intake. Like, we have to ignore sugar totally, like bananas, etc., or is it okay to eat some? I never read anything about this topic. Please give me some suggestions. Okay, so one of my favorite topics is sugar and how it affects the body. Back to the same thing, we need to be goal specific. Okay, so are you trying to lose body fat, or are you trying to gain muscle? If you're trying to gain muscle, sugar is a very anabolic substance and can be useful. If you're trying to lose body fat, sugar is a product that will make you produce lots of insulin and potentially store lots of body fat, or more importantly, maybe keep you out of fat burning mode for too long. So to answer your question, Rahul, to answer your question, I think if you're fat loss crazy, you should ignore sugar in anything other than the post-workout window that I spoke about earlier, the magic window that nobody knows how big, wide, long, or how long it stays open for. But a little bit of sugar post-workout probably not going to hurt you, and a bit of sugar on your refeed day if you're having a sort of cyclical low-carb diet. As for fructose, I'm not a fan of fructose. I've read lots of research that tells me all about how fructose is readily converted to fat in the liver, and that many people's diets have been spoiled by eating too many bananas. So yes, fruit is healthy, but healthy and lean aren't necessarily the same thing, so bear that in mind. So there you go, that was a good question. I hope that's helped some of you guys. There are other articles and references to sugar and fructose and fat loss on my Facebook page and on my website, which I shall name drop whilst I get the chance, www.jamesalexander-ellis.com. Check out those blog posts, and there's downloadable training programs on there, as I'm sure you all know. I think that's it on the questions. Let's have a little look. Okay, here's another good one. Adrian, does doing squats will help me to increase my vertical jump? Let's see. Yes. Squats will help you increase your vertical jump. I presume that you are trying to improve your vertical jump for some kind of sporting or functional reason. Okay, squatting heavy will help you increase your vertical jump. Doing plyometric squats will help you increase your vertical jump. I would definitely try and do both. So plyometrics is going to be a slightly lower intensity, but obviously a different style of squat, where you're going to use the stretch reflex to generate speed. And then heavy back squatting, where you're going to increase your relative strength, which is obviously going to be a slower concentric movement. Although you're actually only going to be pushing, say, 200 kilos up quite slowly, if you can push 200 kilos up slowly rather than 160 kilos up slowly, your vertical jump is going to be better. I can pretty much guarantee that. Charles Poliquin is particularly good at this sort of thing, so if you guys head over to his Facebook page, it's Strength Sensei. He is the guru of that kind of training, and he's really good with athletes. So yes, good question, thank you. I think that's it on the questions. I think I was only going to do 10. I think that was 10 questions. answered. Okay, so thanks for taking part. I hope you found the answers useful. Like I said, I didn't pre-prepare any of the answers, just all off the top of my head. Keep in touch with me via my Facebook page. Please don't private message me because I get far too many messages. Just post up stuff underneath photos or underneath articles. And like I said, head over to my website because some of the stuff will be going on my website and obviously onto my Instagram, and keep your eyes on my YouTube channel. Alright, thanks for listening, hope that was useful. Signing out, see you next time.